Good evening. It's my pleasure to welcome you all to the Berkeley Art Museum and Pacific Film Archive. My name is Kathy Garretts, and I'm one of the curators. So sometimes we have the opportunity to share a program with all of you that we're extraordinarily excited about, and tonight is one such program. Yalin, the film you're about to see, is among the staff's favorite films, and its maker unquestionably one of a world treasure. So for us, it's a great honor to have Souleymane Cissé with us tonight so that we can show our respect to one of the grandfathers of African cinema and a great contemporary filmmaker. Now, as you probably suspect, this is a program that almost didn't happen. Due to the university health advisory, we're going to close tomorrow through March 29, and then it will be reevaluated. But the university made one of those rare exceptions, knowing that such an important filmmaker had traveled here from Mali. They gave us this night. With a few less seats than we usually have, we have to stay under 150, but it is it's a true tribute to Souleymane Cissé that we are all gathered here now to thank him for traveling from Mali and for sharing his work with us. Yes. After the screening, you'll all have a chance to meet him and see what a pleasure it is to have him here. He will be in conversation with Akin Adesokan, who is a Nigerian writer and scholar who is an associate professor of comparative literature and of film and media in Indiana University. Didn't travel as far, but nonetheless, we're very grateful for him to come from Indiana. Now, while we're not able to screen the other two films of Cissé's that we had scheduled, we're very grateful, as I said, that we have this opportunity, and we will find a time to reschedule them, probably not till the fall school year, because we want to do it when our co-presenters from the Center for African Studies and the Department of African American Studies are all on the campus. So we will find a good time. And I'm also going to let you know that Cissé and Adesokan have gratefully agreed to hold a conversation in front of a video recorder about those two films so that when we do screen them, we'll have the opportunity to hear what they have to say about them. So we're grateful for that. I'm sure in the conversation following the screening, many details about Cissé's career will come out. I will just mention now that it's interesting to note that he studied in Moscow and at the VGIK school. He became a projectionist there, and it's a good place, from a good spot to develop your eye. And what an eye he developed, or maybe was born with, and went on to make films with great distinction, great beauty, and that have had a tremendous impact. You may not know his first feature film, The Girl, which was in Bambara, one of the languages of Mali, was banned, and that had quite an impact on him as well. His subsequent films are characterized also by their social and political critiques, and garnered wide recognition. Yalin, the beautiful film you're about to see, was the first African film to win a prize at Cannes. So, very historic making. And then I want to also mention that Cissé is the founding president of the Union of West African Cinema and Audiovisual Designers and Entrepreneurs. This is just a sign of his extraordinary support of other African filmmakers and the continuation and viability of making films in Africa. But he's also a great champion of preserving African film history. He invited Martin Scorsese to Mali to help introduce him to the breadth of African cinema. And he now serves on the board of Martin Scorsese's World Cinema Foundation, which probably all of you know, is dedicated to preserving world cinema, but now has even more of an eye on African cinema. So a big thanks to Cissé for these dual efforts that we can continue to be seeing African cinema. I also want to mention, in case we ever start traveling again, that his films are going to be showing at the Cinémathèque Française in Paris in June, a retrospective of his work. So really an opportunity to see many of these long unavailable works. So perhaps this is a good breakthrough that his work will become a little more available. I also want to close by saying his visit is made possible by the support of the Hollywood Foreign Press Association and our very beloved Afterimage series, which allows us to pair a filmmaker of note with a scholar who knows their work well. They're among our favorite programs because it gives us a chance to go deep with the director's work. So save your questions. Enjoy the film, and then Souleymane Cissé and Akin Adesokan will be up here in conversation with Angela Zawadzki to do interpretation. I know you'll enjoy tonight's program. Thank you for coming. And now it's my pleasure to welcome Souleymane Cissé and thank him for his beautiful film. And Akin Adesokan on the far side, who will be in conversation with Souleymane Cissé, and Angela Zawadzki, who is providing interpretation. We'll begin with the two of them speaking, and then we'll open it up to all of you for your comments and thoughts as well.
So I want to start, Souleymane, to say that you've spoken about the challenges that you faced while making this film, challenges that were not financial, challenges about production logistics in terms of what happened to actors during the filming, and other natural events like sandstorm and other things. So, but you went ahead to make this film. Why did you think it was important to make this film?
Merci pour la question.
Thank you for the question.
Je remercie tout le monde.
And thank you for everyone.
Je vous prierai de m'excuser.
Please, I apologize.
Je vais vous demander 1 minute de silence pour tous ceux qui sont morts au Mali.
I am going to ask you for a minute of silence for all the people who died in Mali.
S'il vous plaît. Merci. Merci. Thank you. Pour répondre à sa question,
And I'm going to answer your question.
plus je vois le film,
Yes.
plus je me rends compte
When I see the film, I realize
que notre contribution pour nos pays, c'est la paix.
that our contribution to our country is peace.
Et c'est ce que ce film voulait dire.
That's what I wanted to say.
Il y a des propos qui sont dits dans ce film aujourd'hui que j'ai senti.
And those are the purposes that I felt when I was making that film, when I was feeling that.
Qui m'ont donné des larmes.
And that was what gave me the weapon.
Car je crus comprendre qu'il y avait des mots prémonitoires pour mon pays.
So that I would have words for my history, for my country.
Pour ce qui concerne la réalisation de ce film,
And in terms of the creation and the making this film real,
c'est vrai, ça n'a pas été facile.
I have to tell you, it wasn't easy.
Nous avons eu beaucoup de difficultés.
We had a lot of difficulties.
On est arrivé à un moment où on s'est demandé où on fera ce film, où nous allons tous mourir.
Oh, there was a point in which we thought we're going to make this film or we're going to die.
Plus on avance, plus de drame.
Because there was a lot of drama as we went on.
Mais tous les techniciens, tous les comédiens, les artistes se sont donné la main pour que ce film puisse exister.
But the actors, the artists, everybody that took part in this film gave everything of themselves to make this film possible.
Malgré la mort, parce que nous avons perdu des comédiens,
Because even though death was present, one of the actors
sans
died,
compter les accidents,
and without telling you a lot about the accidents that occurred.
mais chacun tenait à ce que ce film se fasse.
But everybody thought that this film was important. It had to happen.
Et je leur dois vraiment ça, à
Yeah.
l'équipe.
And this is what I owe. I owe it to that crew, that team.
Les gens que vous avez vus, les comédiens que vous avez vus, la plupart, c'est des gens c'était pas des professionnels.
Most of the people that you see, the actors, were not professional.
Parce que nous avons mis 6 mois pour pouvoir trouver les artistes qu'il fallait pour jouer dans ce film.
It took us 6 months to find the right people to take part in this film.
Nous avons parcouru tout le Mali. Nous avons traversé tout le Mali.
We crossed and we went up and down Mali.
Mais les gens qu'on a rencontrés, surtout la vieille femme, la maman,
Especially everybody that we found, especially the old lady, the mother,
nous ont vraiment bouleversés et au moment du tournage.
they really moved us when we were shooting.
Et je vais vous dire une anecdote.
And I want to give you a story.
Après le tournage, de la maman qui se lave avec du lait.
After the film was shot, the mother who bathes in milk,
Elle est sortie de l'eau.
she came out of the water.
Alors, vous savez, les réalisateurs, des fois, on est un peu fous.
You know, sometimes filmmakers are a little crazy.
Moi, je suis venu crier sur elle. J'ai dit, mais pourquoi tu es sortie à ce moment?
And I went to her and I started shouting, well, why did you come out at this point?
Et elle m'a répondu, est-ce que vous savez ce qui me pique dans l'eau?
And you don't know what bit me in the water.
Je suis resté parce que c'était trop fort. La façon dont elle a dit.
It was really, I was just stunned because the way she said
Parce
it.
qu'à chaque instant qu'elle s'accroupit dans l'eau, les petits poissons venaient la piquer.
Okay, because every time that she squatted in the water, there were little fish that were biting her.
Mais on l'a jamais senti que elle vivait ça. On l'a pas senti dans la caméra.
But in the camera, we never felt that she was experiencing that.
Alors il a fallu que je crie sur elle pour qu'elle me donne ce secret-là. Moi,
And I had to go and I practically scream at her, so she finally revealed her secret.
je lui ai présenté des excuses, bien sûr. Donc,
And I said, yes, of course.
cette femme, je crois qu'elle est tout pour ce film.
Yes, I think she gave everything to this film.
Excuse-moi.
All right. My other question is about the
Mon autre question, c'est
the two uncles
les deux
that
oncles.
Nyankoro has in the film.
Oui.
There's Bafeng, and then there's Jigui.
Oui, les frères.
Yeah, but at some point in the film, we don't know anything or hear anything or know anything about Bafeng again.
Mais
So,
on n'entend rien
this
absolument
is
non, pas dans le film.
an
de
actor
Bafien. Est-ce que c'est un
or a
acteur,
character in the
un
story
comédien
who suddenly
l'histoire
disappears.
que pourquoi est-ce qu'il disparaît tout au long?
What kind of editorial or directorial decision did you have to make about that?
Comme réalisateur, comme metteur en scène, qu'est-ce que vous avez décidé, qu'est-ce que vous avez fait pour le faire to make him disappear?
Yes.
Oui, pour le faire disparaître.
Je dis, ce film, c'est un peu dur des fois de parler.
It's a little hard sometimes, tough to talk about it because
Nous avons passé 3 mois de tournage avec un comédien
we shot for 3 months with one particular actor.
qui était censé jouer le rôle principal.
He was playing the main character.
Et 3 mois, subitement, le tournage s'est arrêté.
And all of a sudden, after 3 months, we had to stop.
Et au bout d'une semaine, l'acteur pique une crise cardiaque.
And after about 1 week, the actor had a heart attack.
Et il meurt.
And he died.
Qu'est-ce qu'on devait faire?
So what could we do?
Tout était mis en question en ce moment. Tout était remis, quoi.
Yes, of course, everything had to be done. We stopped everything.
Ça a été une période très dure.
It was a very difficult time.
6 mois, moi, je ne savais plus que faire.
For 6 months, I didn't know what to do.
C'est pas les dépenses pour le film.
It wasn't the expenses for the film.
C'était la personnalité qu'il fallait pour ce rôle.
It was the personality that was required for that particular role.
Mais, bon, ça c'est le secret du film.
That's the secret of the film.
On a trouvé la solution.
So we found the solution.
Puisque vous l'avez pas senti.
But you haven't seen it.
Eh oui.
What could we do?
Vous l'avez senti?
Did you feel it? Did you see it? Did you notice it?
No.
Ils sont sentis. Monsieur l'a dit que oui.
Qui?
Did you?
Bon, alors donc voilà.
Okay.
Donc ça va.
So it's
Donc, la
okay.
question est répondue.
So it worked,
Okay.
yeah?
All right. Okay, yeah. So it worked. That's right, yeah. So,
Alors ça marchait.
Écoute, puisque lui-même il se doute pas, alors donc ça va.
So everything, yeah, it worked out.
okay. All right. So let me
So,
turn to a different question. So this film is narratively set in the past.
he said in the
Past.
Dans le
In the
passé,
past,
oui,
yeah.
il donne les passés.
But at the same time, it's also a film that some critics have analyzed or talked about
Oui, la mise en scène sont dans les
as
passés, mais le
having
critique, il
some
parle
kind of allegorical
d'une
relationship
relation, un rapport allégorique.
to contemporary Mali or Malian history or politics. And part of the viewpoint that these critics have expressed is that the films that you made prior to this time, like Demuso, Finye, and Bara, were films that were directly political, and this was perhaps an attempt for you to leave politics aside and focus on a story that's more allegorical, that does not directly address politics. Was this a factor for you in making the film?
Moi, je trouve que ce film, il est plus politique que tous mes films.
I think this is the most political film I made.
Puisque je l'ai vu ce soir avec vous, il y a plusieurs années, je ne l'ai pas vu.
I haven't seen it. I just saw it with you for the first time in many years.
La tragédie qui tombe sur mon pays aujourd'hui,
And that's the tragedy my country is experiencing currently.
j'ai cru l'entendre dans ce film
I thought
aujourd'hui,
I
ce
was
soir avec
looking
vous.
at it. Tonight I was looking at it with you, sharing it with you.
Ce film, je me pose la question, le Mali actuel,
I'm asking myself this question.
si ce film était fait aujourd'hui,
If today in Mali, if this film was made today,
certains l'auront pris que c'était contre eux. Par exemple, le Peul. On parle d'ethnie.
you talk about techniques, etc.
D'ethnie,
Ah oui,
c'est-à-dire que
ethnie, yes.
les différentes sociétés,
Yes, ethnicity. We talk about ethnicity, the different societies.
je pense que vous n'avez pas ce problème-là aux États-Unis.
You don't have that problem in the United States, right?
Non, il faut détendre un peu.
I'm sorry, I just couldn't help it.
Non, ah, mais, écoute, je pense que non, le film il est politique, vraiment.
The film is a political film.
J'ai voulu tout simplement m'exprimer autrement
I wanted to express myself in a
parce
different
que
way.
quand j'ai fait mes premiers films, j'avais une sorte de violence à l'intérieur.
Because in my first few films, I was experiencing some kind of inner
Et
violence.
au fur que j'ai avancé dans le temps et dans l'âge,
And as I got older,
je me suis rendu compte qu'on peut s'exprimer autrement
I realized that I could express myself differently
et plus profondément
and with a little more depth,
que d'attaquer légèrement comme ça à la surface.
rather than to attack the surface very lightly.
Merci.
Okay. One question is about the way you use technology in this film. Okay, like technique
La
or
technique,
technology
la technologie,
of cinema. Like there's this sequence where Soma gets the dog, yeah, and the albino to walk backwards, and people have thought that in a very practical way, what you did was essentially to use the rewind button. Okay, but the rewind button. Yes. No, rewind.
Oui, alors, qu'est-ce que vous avez enlevé les films en arrière ou quoi? Qu'est-ce que vous avez filmé?
So, I mean, my question is not over yet. I want you to think of that.
J'ai pas fini la question.
Especially now, I mean, there's so much about technology, about digital filmmaking, especially from different parts of the continent, South Africa, Nigeria. So, given your technique, your skill in using technology, how do you think of this kind of filmmaking that's so prevalent on the continent now through technology, digital technology especially?
Puisqu'il me pousse à parler, on va parler.
Okay, so you were asking me to talk, so I will.
D'abord, pour imaginer un tel film, une telle fiction,
In order to think about a film like this, fiction like
tu as
this,
besoin d'un minimum de technologie pour
Yeah.
pouvoir s'exprimer.
yeah, we had minimum of technology to make this film.
Et c'est vrai que ce film, il a été fait en 87.
Of course, this film was made in 87.
Et bien sûr, on ne pouvait pas rêver d'avoir les mêmes moyens que Hollywood.
And of course, we couldn't have the same means of production as Hollywood.
Mais c'était mon rêve.
But it was my dream.
Si je l'avais, ce film, il serait autrement.
If I had that option, this film would have been different.
Parce que quand vous voulez parler de la magie,
Because
pour convaincre les gens,
we needed magic to convince
il
people.
faut aller au-delà.
Yeah, because you have to go beyond things.
Mais nous l'avons fait avec les techniques primaires.
And we had very basic techniques.
Et nous avons échangé. Les chiens qui courent, c'est pour des professionnels qui sont dans la salle, savent très bien que ce n'est pas quelque chose de secret.
And professionals who are here, you know that it's not a secret.
Et pour l'albinose, c'est un comédien que tu le fais fonctionner.
Yeah, and thank goodness, it's thanks to the actors that we made it work.
Mais j'aurais bien voulu avoir les mêmes moyens matériels, techniques, comme la guerre des soirs.
Yeah. But I wish I had the same kind of techniques and materials.
Parce que la fin de ce film,
Because at the end of that film,
je l'ai rêvé autrement.
because I dreamed of a different ending for that film.
Je l'ai vraiment rêvé autrement.
Very different ending.
Parce que chacun de nous dans la salle aurait dû sentir la lumière pénétrer.
Because everybody, all of us, felt the light coming into
On
us.
l'a fait primitivement.
When we had to do it. We had to make it as visible as possible.
Mais je ne regrette pas parce
But I'm
que
not
les
sorry.
artistes, ils étaient à la hauteur.
Yeah, but I think that the actors did the best they could. They were great,
Et chacun s'est défendu.
and everybody did a very
C'est
good
le
job.
secret du film.
That's the secret of the film.
All right. One last question, and then I
La
will
dernière question, et puis
give
on permettra
the
que les gens-
floor to the audience. It's about the way women are depicted in the film. On the one hand, you have Nyankoro's mother and himself, and then on the other hand, you have Fatou and the little boy. So that shows a very interesting relationship between mother and son. But on the other hand, you have Fatu, especially with the Pearl King, not having as much agency that you expect a woman to have in a film that's so invested in women in this to this degree. So I don't think it's so much of a paradox, but I think it's a question that's been asked, but I haven't had a chance to ask you this question. So how do you sort of square this tension between two extremely powerful and supportive women on the one hand, on the other hand, a woman who really is like quiet, silent between two men?
Moi, j'aurais demandé dans la salle, là, s'il y a quelqu'un qui puisse répondre à cette question. Personne ne veut me donner un coup de main, là.
Nobody wants to give me a hand?
Bon. Je ne sais pas comment répondre à cette question.
I don't know how to answer that question.
C'est vrai qu'il y a une sorte d'affection, de tendresse profonde pour les femmes dans ce film.
I know there is the intention of tenderness towards women in this film.
Ça s'explique tout simplement les rapports entre moi-même et ma propre maman.
And you could explain this from my own relationship with my mother, myself and my mother.
Et c'est ce que j'ai voulu exprimer à travers cette vieille femme.
That's the first thing that I tried to articulate through the old woman.
À chaque mouvement qu'elle fait, ça me fait vibrer.
Yeah, every time she makes a gesture and all her movements, all her gestures, it just made me vibrate.
Donc, ne m'identifie pas que je suis féministe.
Of course, you're going to say that I'm a feminist.
Mais je défends les femmes.
I defend women.
Merci.
I'm a
Même si c'est timide, merci, c'est très gentil.
I'm sorry, even though it was a kind of a shy applause, but thank you.
At which point?
Your questions.
Now we'll open it up for questions, and like as usual, there's someone on either side with a microphone, and so just wait till the microphone gets to you. So we'll start there.
Bonjour, Monsieur Cissé.
Bonjour.
Bienvenue à California.
Merci.
Le film est magnifique. Merci.
Merci.
That's all my French. Two quick questions. I'm just wondering if Monsieur Cissé has a favorite American film or a favorite American director that he admires. And my second question is, what kind of magic or sorcery has he seen in his life?
My favorite? Are you talking about a director?
J'avais mal compris. Bon. Donc, je vous parlerai tout simplement de mon enfance.
I'll talk to you about my childhood.
Parce que je sais que mon premier contact avec l'image, c'était à l'âge de 5 ans.
The first contact I had with moving images was when I was 5 years old.
5 ans, ça veut dire en 1945.
So it was in 1945.
C'était la fin de la guerre.
It was the end of the war.
Les films qui venaient en ce moment en Afrique,
And films that we saw in Africa
c'était des films américains,
were American films,
la grande partie.
most of them.
Il y avait peut-être quelques films égyptiens,
Maybe a few Egyptian films
français,
and French films,
mais très rares sur les écrans.
but very seldom on the big screen.
Que les films américains.
Mostly American films.
Donc, toute mon enfance, je n'ai vu que des westerns.
Westerns is what I saw when I was a child.
La déduction, vous le faites vous-même.
So you saw that yourself.
Bon, la deuxième
La
question.
deuxième question, c'est la magie dans votre
Non. Quand j'ai présenté ce film une fois en Corée du Sud,
One time when I took this film to South Korea,
il y a un cinéphile qui m'a approché.
and a film lover approached me.
Il m'a dit, mais Monsieur Cissé, c'est un problème de famille chez vous ou quoi?
And he approached me and he said, Mr. Cissé, is this a family problem you have or what?
Je lui ai dit, mais pourquoi?
And I said, well, why?
Il dit, mais on ne peut pas toucher du doigt de ce film si vous n'avez pas vécu ce problème-là.
We cannot really get to the essence of this film if you didn't have those problems.
Mais je lui ai dit, non, c'est une fiction.
No, I told him it's fiction. Fiction.
Donc, voilà, c'est une histoire que je voulais faire sur le plan magique,
It's a story I wanted to tell on that magical level,
malgré mes moyens.
and within my means, of course.
Voilà.
That's it.
J'espère que j'ai pu répondre à la question parce que
I
n'a
hope
pas
I
l'air
answered
content.
your question because
Ça va?
is that
Oh,
okay?
thank you
But
very
also,
much.
but also, it's been said by some critics that maybe you have some kind of affinity with Stanley Kubrick.
Où est-ce que vous êtes allé chercher ça?
Where did you go? Where did you look for this? Where did you find that?
I read it in a review of the film.
Non, mais
There's a question all the way in the very back
oui,
center.
mais c'est Kubrick,
And then
c'est
you will be the next person in
un
like the
cinéaste que j'adore.
I love Kubrick. He's a filmmaker I love.
Mais si j'arrivais à son talent, mais vraiment, je me sentirais honorifié.
If I had his talent, I'd be honored.
C'est un compliment.
It's a compliment.
Okay, all the way in the back.
In the scene with Soma in the forest, is there any meaning for the red and black writing on the trees?
C'est des idéogrammes,
The ideograms.
c'est des gens qui se servaient de ça pour faire leurs réunions, pour créer des choses. Chaque idéo correspondait à quelque chose. D'ailleurs, je ne sais pas si vous avez vu mon film Le Vent.
I don't know if you saw my film, The Wind. These are ideograms that people used in order to express something, to remember something.
Et ça commence par les
they have a
idéogrammes.
And they have a specific meaning, and the ideograms start.
Et chaque idéogramme, par exemple, le vent réveille la pensée de l'homme. Et en 4 idéos.
And so you have ideograms. You have the
Le
wind.
vent réveille la pensée de l'homme.
Okay, the wind awakens the thought of man.
Voilà ce que je peux dire pour les idéogrammes.
That's all I have to say about those images.
Gentleman there.
Bonjour, bonsoir, Monsieur Cissé.
Bonsoir.
Moi, c'est Alain. Je suis malien aussi. Donc, vraiment, j'ai vraiment aimé votre film.
Merci.
I'm from Mali too, and I love to film.
Je suis un Peul. Donc, le film, il fallait être malien pour bien comprendre le récit du film.
Alors,
J'ai dit, le film, moi, vraiment, je me suis senti bien dans le film. Je suis né au Mali, mais c'est la première fois que je vois un film aussi vraiment grandiose.
It's I was born in Mali, but this is the very first time that I see such a great film.
Le film, là où il parlait des ethnies, dans le film, ils ont tourné dans beaucoup je pense, des villes du Mali.
Ils sont de quoi?
Ils ont tourné dans beaucoup des
régions du Mali,
oui,
différentes régions.
Des régions du
in the various regions of Mali, yes.
Puis, j'ai vu où il évoquait les Bambara, c'est des ethnies de Peul.
And it's evocative of all the Bambara and all this, the fire techniques.
J'ai aimé, je n'ai rien à dire, vraiment, merci.
Peul.
Fulani.
Okay.
Yeah. Bambara Fulani.
The Bambara Fulani,
Je
sorry.
pense que dans les falaises aussi, il y avait les Dogons. Des ethnies, il y avait au moins 3 ethnies.
Dogon, ça c'est dans les pays Dogon.
Oh, it's in the Dogon country. I'm sorry, I need help here. Of course, we'll do.
Oui, donc merci. C'était juste ça. J'ai aimé le film et merci.
And I just wanted to say that I love the film and thank you.
Merci à toi. Merci. Merci.
Are there any other questions? Back there.
I just wanted to ask if you used only the natural light to make the film. Did you only use natural light and fire to make the film?
Natural light?
Natural
Yeah,
light.
natural-
They only use natural light.
I can't.
Did
Natural
you
light.
use only natural light and fire to make the film? Or did you use anything artificial? Because I found the light in it to be very beautiful.
C'est la question?
Is that your question?
I just wanted to know if there was any artificial light or if it was.
Un peu, pas beaucoup.
A little bit, but not much.
Dans certains points, oui, mais pas beaucoup, parce que
At certain points I did,
il n'y a
but
pas
not
de
very much.
secret. Hein. Vous savez, la lumière, elle est formidable chez nous le matin de bonne heure ou l'après-midi. Vous avez vu que dans ce film, très rare, on tourne à midi, en plein ciel.
And you can see that in our country, light is really beautiful, especially very early in the morning or late in the afternoon. You notice that we didn't film very much during the midday.
Alors, je ne sais pas si vous faites de la photographie,
I don't know if you're a photographer.
la lumière éclatante avec nos peaux colorées, ça pose toujours des problèmes.
See, when you have very, very bright light with our colored skin, it creates a lot of problems.
Ça va?
Is that okay?
Non. Si vous n'êtes pas satisfaite, on peut...
If you're not happy with my answer,
Merci beaucoup. C'est très bien.
Ça m'intéresse beaucoup, moi.
because I'm really interested in what you're saying.
Vraiment, je suis un photographeur, un étudiant de photographie.
Ah, voilà.
But
Ça, c'est tout l'intérêt. Bravo. Donc, on pourra parler après.
then we could talk later on then because photographer.
We have a question now all the way down here in the front. Just 1 minute. Could you hold your hand up so they know? Yes.
The film is really lovely. I've been in Mali, and I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the indigenous spiritual systems that you were referencing in the film. I didn't know that there were any spiritual systems besides Islam.
Spiritual
Systems, yeah. I mean, there was like indigenous spiritual systems, like Elegua, like Ifa, but we're in Mali. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that as well. Second part is that I noticed that the caves and the Dogon, and I was wondering if you could talk about when the protagonist was going to see his uncle, and they were like climbing behind the rocks, and then in the front we saw the caves.
Vous parlez un tout petit peu.
Spirituel,
Spiritual?
qu'est-ce qu'il faut comprendre là?
What would you like me to talk about?
Je vais à l'école tous les jours, hein,
Yeah,
moi.
I went to school every day.
Comment?
Elle veut que vous le rencontriez.
Quoi?
But what would you like me to tell you about it?
Il faut que la question soit concrète.
You need to ask me a very specific question.
She's
Oui,
saying,
j'ai pas compris. Alors.
yeah, well, she's saying, I think if I understand,
Je
that
crois si je-
that mostly people think that in a place like Mali, Islam is a very prominent religion, but that in this film you see aspects of indigenous religion, and especially in the second part where the protagonist is going through the Gong country. There's there are some caves and rocks that have been shown, and these reflect some kind of a religious or spiritual dimension. So she wants to hear more about that. That in other places you know about Shango or Ifa, but there isn't much about that that's known about Mali. She's been to Mali, and so she wants us to share that. Am I right?
Oui.
Okay.
C'est ça?
Is that it?
Pour moi, d'abord, c'est simple. Ce film, je l'ai fait dans l'esprit avant la pénétration des différentes religions.
When I made this film, I was thinking in terms of before religious
On ne parle pas ni d'église, ni de mosquée, ni de...
churches or mosques without any of that influence.
C'est l'esprit avec lequel on vivait avant.
The spirit with which we lived
Et
beforehand,
cette
before all that.
spiritualité, c'est ce que j'ai exprimé dans les rencontres,
That's the kind of spirituality I tried
leur
to express
attachement à leurs symboles,
in the meetings when they all encounter each other with their symbols.
Par exemple, le Como est,
Como, for instance,
est une société secrète.
it's a secret society.
Et pour être membre de ce Como, il faut que tu sois initié.
And you have to be initiated to become a member of that society.
Et si jamais par malheur vous trahissez,
And if you happen to betray
il n'y
the
a pas d'autre
society,
solution, c'est la mort. C'est-à-dire on
death is
t'élimine.
the only solution. They have to eliminate you.
Eux, on dit que c'est le Como qui t'a tué. Le
And
Como qui t'a tué.
And no, this is how it is. It's tattooed in their soul.
Voilà. Ça va?
Is that better? Est-ce que ça arrive encore?
Il y en a très peu.
Very few.
Ça disparaît. Oui.
Yeah, it has disappeared.
Ça disparaît complètement. Tous nos systèmes sont en train de s'écrouler.
Yeah, all those systems are just falling apart.
Hélas.
Unfortunately, alas.
Et c'est le grand problème de l'Afrique d'ailleurs.
And by the way,
Je parle
that's
du Mali seulement. Hein.
Africa's problem, not just Mali's problem.
In the back
Yes.
there?
I was curious about the symbolism of milk, which kept coming up, and especially the old lady who's bathing in milk. What should we know to really understand the symbolism of the milk and the bath, bathing in milk?
C'est-à-dire quand elle prend le bain dans le lait. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire?
C'est un rituel pour une mère
It's a mother's ritual
parce qu'il n'y a pas de liquide beaucoup plus pur que le lait.
There is no other liquid as pure as
Et c'est
milk.
pour ça cette femme, elle implore son Dieu pour qu'il puisse l'aider, que son fils soit sauvé.
So that's what she begs her God for her son's
C'est des
for her son to be saved.
c'est des traditions.
It's a tradition,
Et dans certaines familles, ça existe et ça se fait.
and in certain families it still exists and it's still done.
And it looked like there were 4 bowls. Is that correct? Anyway, did that mean something about the directions, like the 4 directions?
Oui.
Yes.
Il y a 4. Et puis en plus de cela aussi, chez nous, 4, ça représente les femmes.
There are 4, and also with us, 4 represents women.
Et 3, ça représente les hommes.
And 3, it's a symbol for men. It has to do with men. 4 for women and 3 for men.
Ça, c'est dans les ethnies Bambara.
And that is in the Bambara ethnia.
Voilà. Il faut que les choses soient claires.
So I want things to be very clear about that.
And then the 2 bulls. Can you tell us more about the bulls and what they...
Vous avez vu les 2 boulettes qui se cognent.
You saw the little round ones? Yeah, the circle ones, yes.
L'affrontement, elle était inévitable.
Of course, the confrontation was inevitable.
Et ça se prononçait par là.
And that's how it said. That's how it was started. That's how it came about.
C'était comme une sorte de magie qui les attirait l'un vers l'autre.
There was like a kind of magic, one in front of the other.
Donc, la maman, déjà, elle avait vu que l'affrontement était inévitable.
The mother foresaw that the confrontation was unavoidable.
Ça va ou ça va pas?
Is that okay? Or
more about why is it the bulls?
The bulls. The bulls, the 2 cows.
Oui, the bulls, donc les vaches, les taureaux.
Ah. Mais c'est... Pourquoi la présence des vaches?
So the cows...
J'ai pas compris la question.
I didn't understand the question.
The father and the son, in the end, there are the 2 animals with horns.
Ah bah, il y a la fin, il y a 2 bêtes.
C'est juste.
That's right, yes.
Non, mais parce que quand vous parlez de vaches,
il
y a des troupeaux de vaches qui passent avec les peuls.
Yeah, because there is a point where a bunch of cows go by.
Ces 2 vaches que vous voyez, le noir et le rouge.
You see the black and the red cow.
Et c'est des symboles très forts.
And they're very, very powerful symbols.
Et c'est des sacrifices qui se font autour de ça, comme on avait vu avec, comment ça s'appelle, l'albinos, le chien qui recule.
And sacrifices have to be made around that, and just like the albino, and also the dog, the red dog that's walking backwards.
Dans le film, moi, j'ai voulu tout simplement donner ce côté magie au sacrifice que plutôt le sang.
I wanted to give that magic touch to the sacrifice in the film rather than to blood.
D'habitude, pour les sacrifices, on les égorge.
Yes, because during sacrifices, what they do is, they cut the throat and there's a lot of blood.
J'ai mis un peu de sucre, quoi.
And I put a little bit of sugar. I sweetened it a little bit.
Merci.
Thank you.
Okay.
Donc, je vois que d'abord, moi, je dois vous remercier parce que c'est vrai qu'avec comment vous appelez? Coronavirus, sortir chez soi et venir voir un film qui vient du désert malien. C'est courageux.
First of all, I want to thank you because in the middle of the coronavirus, to go out at night to come and to watch a film from the Malian desert is quite a feat.
Et avoir le courage de, pendant 1h40, vraiment.
And to sit here for 1 hour and 40 minutes.
Avec un rythme.
With a certain, very slow film, a slow-paced film.
Donc, vraiment, je dois vous remercier. Je suis très honoré que vous...
So I feel very honored. I'm very grateful.
Et je tiens à vous remercier encore une fois pour l'accueil.
I thank you for your welcome.
Pour le musée.
To the museum, to the curator.
Moi, je pense beaucoup que la culture a son rôle à jouer dans le développement de nos pays, et c'est ma conviction.
I am totally convinced that culture has its place in the development of our countries. I'm totally convinced of that.
Et je le dis à tous les cinéphiles du monde, aidez-nous pour que la paix soit partout.
And I say that to all the film lovers in the world, it's an appeal I make.
Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.